Before we dive into today's episode, just a quick word from the sponsor CWD Pond. Whether or not you're building your new koi pond or you're upgrading your existing setup, these guys have got you covered with sleeper pond kits, pond windows, pressure pipe and all the essentials you need to build a pond. And for Koi Perspective podcast listeners, you can enjoy 5% off using the discount code TKPP5. Check them out, all the links are down in the description below. Let's get into today's episode. Hi and welcome back to another episode of the Koi Perspective podcast. I'm delighted to say we've got another guest this week. We've got Josh from Satomi Nishikigoi. I said that right, haven't I?
Yeah.
It's bit late now.
Yeah. It'd be a bit awkward getting the name wrong. But new business actually. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself for people that haven't seen your YouTube channel or seen you on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm Josh. I set up Satomi Nishikigoi, incorporated in May, but I was building for about 3 months before that. And basically, I'm a hobbyist that's gone a bit mad and got fed up with having one pond at home. But obviously, I know we're going to dive a bit more into it later on, but been keeping fish since I was literally probably 4 years old, because of my dad. So I got a lot of experience. Always had a pond. I took the plunge, and here I am.
Nice one. So I'm joined as well by my two regular co-hosts. I don't think you guys need an introduction anymore. Like people are probably sick at sight of us freaks.
Yeah, but you can still give us an intro though, Joe. It's polite.
There might be new people listening, Joe.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Nah.
Well, to be fair, anyone that joined us last week for the first time, they'll probably miss Dave because you were snowed in, weren't you?
I was stuck at work.
So we've roped you back into this one. How are you,
It's
Dave?
good. It's good to be back. I really missed it actually. But what was quite nice was I actually got to listen to that podcast. That one's not gone out yet, has it? But
No.
I got to listen to the podcast, which was quite nice because, I wasn't on it, and I can't listen to myself yabber on.
How are you?
It might have gone out by the time this one goes out.
That's a very.
So for those of you that haven't watched last week's, there might be an episode coming up without Dave, so stay tuned for that one.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Si? You all right?
Yeah, I'm not bad, Joe.
Good stuff.
Just been busy working.
Busy.
Usual.
Any closer on that grow on pond or not?
No, not till spring comes around. We've been snowed under.
Yeah.
That's no excuse.
Well, it's no excuse for Josh. I mean, it's 6 p.m. now when we're recording this, and he's sipping on a Monster Energy drink. And he says, well, I am a koi dealer at the end of the day.
He'll be like that on the pillow when he gets home.
No, I will be. You're not wrong, mate.
But it is like a 24-hour job, isn't it, now?
Yeah.
I mean, loading fish onto a website, changing your website, redesigning your website at the minute as well, aren't you, I think? A lot going on, eh? I
think when I set up, I thought, I'm buzzing and keeping fish for a living, or I will be at some point. And I now sort of built and set up all the ponds are cycled, automatic feeders on, and just kind of sat on the laptop all day. And I'm a bit oh. So you don't realise how much stuff on the laptop is involved, and it's just 10% keeping the kids, keeping the fish, and the rest is done on the laptop, trying to network and do the website, and obviously talk to customers. Today, literally, I've been at home today, so at the farm this morning, and my partner's here, grandma's in hospital, so she's been down there. I let the kids have literally been talking to customers all day, which is good. Obviously, it's good. But you don't realise when you set up, it's a lot of computer work.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I think a lot of people they come from the hobbyist side and they think this is really easy, just a pond full, and managing one pond is very, very different to managing a business where you've got livestock. I don't know if you guys, Dave or Si, have ever considered managing more than one pond. I mean, we're talking about all of us having grow-on systems or whatever, but I mean, it is a full-time job, really, if you had 13 of the buggers or whatever.
Yeah, I can't imagine the stress that's involved with that. I mean, we get flukes, we treat our pond. You know, when it's your money, if all of a sudden someone said to me, you can go to work, but by the way, your staff have got flukes and you ain't going to get paid this month, it's a different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Funny enough, I did, when I first built this pond, I built a little grow on in the shed as well. And I ended up having to close it down because it completely took my focus off of the main pond cycling and everything. And that was to the detriment of the main pond. So I would say 3 years on, I'm only just ready to build a grow on. So, and Si, you're obviously doing the same, aren't you?
Yeah, eventually.
It's but yeah, to manage that. Josh, do you want to talk us through your dealership, your new, because it's a fairly new dealership. Not everyone would have heard of you, and I think I've seen it. The guys in here have seen it. It's a fantastic location. It's a really, really nice setup. Do you want to just talk through what that setup is and the ponds, etc.?
Yeah, so in terms of like the actual setup, I had this empty barn on a good friend, a farm that a good family friend actually owns. He's found it from being a kid all his life. His parents had it, and he's like 65 now, slowly winding back on the actual farming aspect. So the opportunity to come up to rent a part of the farm. I've been pondering on doing like a car business, whether that was going to be a dealership or whatever, for about 2 years. And then obviously this opportunity come up, I took it. Because I just think sometimes you just got to try it. I took it anyway. I was looking at the actual barn, it's got a concrete floor. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do it as close to what they do in Japan as I can. So basically, you walk in. Obviously, you see it on the videos and stuff like that. You walk in, and you go up steps and walk along the filters, which is a settlement chamber, and then I got your bio chamber. I added a pump chamber just because I'm using K1 and I couldn't be bothered with them getting stuck in the pump all the time. And then it's all done by purging. So it's literally, apart from the SRC pumps, which I've got on each pond, because I was pondering with it being a growing facility as well, and it's going to be like half and half now. Apart from the SRT pumps, it's literally all Japanese style. You walk on the floorboards, you're looking down at the fish, there's no windows. It looks like a Japanese koi house, so it will do when I'm done. So I've not even told anyone yet, but I'm going to be building over it inside the barn, with like the polycard sort of stuff they do in Japan, and it's just a bit of an experience for that side of things as well as the fish for people to come down and look at into.
When you were deciding and you were like, right, I'm going to do this, you got your rent agreement, I guess. Like, what was like in my mind? You've always got to have something unique about your business, haven't you? Like, if you're doing anything in life, like you can't just be the same as someone else down the road. Like, was there anything in particular that you thought, like in the koi scene, you wanted to do differently or have different? Was there anything particular that stood out?
Well, it is kind of that. I think the first thing I thought like that was the setup. Like, obviously, personally down my end, I work in a dealership and they've got concrete pond and then a Nexus on the side. So, first thing first, I wanted to do it differently, so it's a different experience that way. And then obviously, I was still going to do it, but like I say, I'm going to do half and half, I think. But I was going to completely go down the route of just growing fish on, because obviously it's expensive for the average hobbyist to do it. So I was going to try and fill that gap sort of thing. I know a lot of dealers offer it and stuff like that, but so I was going to go down that route. But I think now it's crazy how much you can learn in a year, and I think going forward, like I say, it'll be half and half, and it's going to be all Japanese going forward, because I've been really surprised at how easy it is to actually supply Japanese fish in the UK, just because of people like Chris Edwards. that's actually over there in Japan, talking to Chris a lot, and he's been really helpful. So I think going forward it'll be it's just going to all be Japanese and go from there.
That traditional kind of setup with your settlement chamber, is that a reflection of what your hobbyist pond is, or what did you have like when you were a hobbyist?
When I was a hobbyist, I had a drum and a vial and a shower.
Right, okay.
So not really, no. But I think keeping koi and growing koi are just totally different. And when I had my pond at home, I just wanted crystal clear water. When I was a hobbyist, my missus wanted to go outside and look at the koi with crystal clear water, which is why I did the drum and the vial. When I was at the barn, I call it the barn, I should call it Satomi, Nishikigoi, shouldn't have, but at the farm in the barn, it was more in the middle pond that I set out Japanese style. I've been growing fish, but I think it's a good decision because when you're just starting out and you've not got loads of people in a WhatsApp group or you've not got loads of traffic on your website, you're not going to sell loads of koi. So I'd rather sat there growing rather than just sat in cold water getting a teaspoon a week and maybe every other day, which is obviously what a lot of koi have in dealerships over here. I mean, sounds bad to say, but every time I walk in dealerships, it's cold water and they don't look fed. So I want it to be a bit different that way as well, because I'm supplying healthier fish in the long run as well.
I think the other thing as well is like it's better for your customers if you're supplying a fish with 6 months worth of feeding behind it and it's been in a heated environment, the less likely to get a fish with the white spot or trick come the time it actually ends up in the pond, isn't it? You know, there's a whole different thing, and I guess with also like for your side of it, in that type of raising environment, you're adding value to the fish, aren't you? They're not going backwards. I think common misconception is from koi dealers or new koi dealers where they get a couple of tanks together and stick like some really cheap filtration on, and then they buy some fish and they're just trying to sell them, and they don't comprehend like the heating, the feeding costs, and there is that to take into account. Like it's really difficult because usually in business you buy a product, you add your margin, you sell it. In koi, there's like so much more to that. You've got losses to account for, like it happens, like we're talking about livestock. Then you've got feeding, you've got heating and everything else. Like it's you can see why some fish do end up so expensive.
Yeah, because when you think if you were selling trainers, you wouldn't have a shipment of trainers and straight away there's something wrong with them.
Yeah,
would you? You wouldn't open the first box of trainers and the tongue or the sole's falling off. Whereas fish,
you'd send them back, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You'd say, it's faulty or whatever.
I think that's the route I'm trying to go down. Hopefully, over time, that compounds and people start to realise that if they buy a fish from Satomi Nishikigoi, it's going to be well looked after. It's not going to be sat in freezing cold water for half the year.
Yeah,
not going to do much. You could even the overwintering tank I've just kept it at 14 because, in my opinion, if I just pay a bit extra and keep it at 14, I'm probably going to get less parasites myself within that tank, and the fish just seem to take over winter. Whereas if I just had it, I might pay a few £100 more in electric bill, probably more than that, but it's no less headache for me as well having to treat because temperatures are up, down, and obviously at the moment I'm still building to an extent, and it frees me a bit of time up because I just kept them at 14 and they've been absolutely fine, absolutely bang on.
So in terms of your plan for Satomi Nishikigoi then, Josh, are you looking to bring in like Tosai and Nisai and sell them on at that, or are you wanting to raise them through to Sansai and Yonsai and things like that?
So at the moment, I don't think it'd be a good move for me business-wise to be raising fish to like Yonsai and beyond, because obviously you got to set on money then, haven't you? But at the moment, I've got quite a few Tosai already in that have been growing on to Nisai, which will be Nisai next year. I've got Tosai coming in from Japan. I've got Nisai coming in from Japan. But long term, I 100% want to do that. Obviously, on the farm, like I said, the farmer's slowly winding down his their farming career, and there's more scope for me to rent more buildings and stuff to do that kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to sort of pace it in the right way, because obviously you a part of business, isn't it? You can't open a shop and be the biggest and the best in the UK on day one. It's sort of a lot of the shops that are big now have been established in the 1900s and stuff like that. I'm brand new, so it's just about at the moment doing what I can on my own until I'm in a position where I can A, hire somebody, and B, take over more space, and then start growing these really high quality Tosai through to the on-side. But that's what I enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned about how like having fish out in Japan. Do you want to just touch on what that experience is like for you, crossing over from being a hobbyist to crossing over into bidding in, you know, your Japanese auctions? What's that transition like?
It's stressful. No, it's nice. It's stressful because obviously you're fighting two battles, aren't you? You're trying to be a good businessman, but then the hobbyist side of me really loves that fish in the auction, and it's just you got to kind of, and then you start battling with, oh, I'll just put it in my own pond at home and grow it on. But and then you're still down money, aren't you? So it's it's been interesting, but I'm enjoying it, and like I say, I'm learning on the job because it's literally just me. I got a YouTube editor that I pay per video that I've known from being a kid, and literally everything else is a bit of help from the farmers, and everything else is me. So it's just that scaling it up and just learning a trade as I go, I suppose. If I can do well this year and move some stock on, something I definitely want to do is try and get actually out to Japan in October, start meeting people and stuff like that. Even it's not all about being a business in terms of making money. I want to build relationships and start meeting people and stuff like that. So that I think this year that is a big goal of mine, is to get low enough stock levels so that I can actually go to Japan and potentially bring in some nice stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to run out of stock if you keep buying on these auctions.
I mean,
you're never going to need to go to Japan, are you?
I know.
You put out some content on social media of the Dainichi auctions that you've been taking part in. Are they Dainichi auctions? Are they the first auctions that you've been involved in as a dealer?
I did the Japan breeder auction. I didn't end up getting anything, so I have been involved with that one. But the Dainichi auction is the first one where I've actually bought stuff. Yeah, and it's crazy, mate. Some of the fish go for crazy money, but they deserve crazy money because they're really nice fish. But again, I just got to try and not be a hobbyist.
I think we need to, like, on this podcast, start a segment. You know, when you go to church and you do, like, confessions and you can confess your sins. I think we need to, like, get a koi dealer sin confession area.
How long have you got?
Isn't we all sit in a circle?
It's quite obvious, because to me, it's really obvious to see that you are quite passionate about it. You know, you see a lot of people who work in koi, but I wouldn't say that you work in koi. I think you do it as a hobbyist, and you're obviously, like, you've gone from, you know, starting this business and having an idea about what you want to do, and then it's completely changed, and it's changing again, and it's adapting, and it's growing. And I think it's kind of your evolution as you get more and more into it as well, which is nice to see.
I think when you look from an outside perspective, Josh, you've got real great economies of scale. So I think the first years are setting the stepping stones, aren't they? The base to work from, and you seem to be very level-headed, and you seem to be working that up nicely. Whereas, we've all seen some of these businesses come to market and they're all fireworks, and then within months they've disappeared, and very, very sadly, things haven't worked out. So
I think
it's
the
really nice
quicker,
to watch.
yeah, I think the quicker you build up, I think the more volatile the business is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just slowly, and then I'll get there. But yeah, definitely.
Have you purchased anything that you've then looked at later on and thought that didn't make good business sense, but boy, have I just bought a really nice coin?
I don't know. Yeah, it depends on itself. No, it's I've been quite sensible, to be fair, but because I think a big thing that's helped that is I've actually shot. Like I said, I've moved house literally in the start of December. I moved into the house that I'm in now, so I've not got a pond at the moment, so I can't really do it. But it'll be a different story when I got a pond. But yeah, so I think that's helped a bit. But I will be building.
You might need a few more Monster Energy drinks if you've got more multi-beers to empty. Jesus.
But yeah.
So your koi, Josh. So your koi from home, I'm assuming, are now at the shop.
They are at my house in a massive pool at the moment.
I was going to say, it's interesting if you got your own koi at the shop and someone walks in and says, "I'd like to purchase that one, please," and actually it's one of your own. Yeah, that's a difficult decision then, isn't it?
I brought a few Tosai over, and they sold, but they're really nice. But the bigger ones, like I got a Hoshikin Gaming Karashi, and I've been told that he discontinued the line. I don't know how true that is. Do you know if that's true, Joe?
Hoshikin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That I've never heard of that line, so it must be discontinued.
Yeah, so I bought that 2 years ago at the Great British Film exclusively, and that it turned out really nice, mate. Massive. Obviously, it was on heat. Whether it is Hoshikin or not, I don't know, but apparently the line discontinued. But it's a really nice gaming Karashi.
Yeah, that's interesting. That
it is.
So you don't want to get rid of it, basically.
Just being a Karashi is a bonus to start with, isn't it?
Yeah. Always going to be jumbo if you've got Karashi.
Yeah,
but no,
just looking, Jack. They're a real sort of pastel creamy Karashi, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I've just got on Google.
I'll have to get a video and send it over to you. It's a really nice fish. But then the bigger
I really like unique stuff from breeders, because I remember it were a couple of years ago. I think it was Kitsu that brought in some fish, and they got some Uchiba, and they were like, "Oh, these are from Ueno Showa breeder." And he basically picked up an Achiba and decided one year, I'm going to spawn this with my Showa, and just had a play around with Achiba. And they said, he weren't keen on them, so these are the last ones they're going to be. It's like a failed bloodline, essentially. But I really liked that story. I don't know why. And the Achiba in front of me were actually quite nice. It just might be that Ueno looked at him and gone, I'm just not passionate about them. But it's kind of them stories that are good about koi, I think, especially when you're getting into like the bloodline side of it. It's nice to have something unique like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Just looking. There's no Tosai available. Everything on there is Sansai and above. So it must have been discontinued. Something they did 2 or 3 years ago, and then just decided to stop. But it's strange because they're a lovely. I like a pastel. I think everybody's gone mad, haven't they, for Yellow Monkey and whatnot. Everything to me, Karashis seem to be turning into Yamabuki Ogons.
Yeah, they're like they're really Kigoi, or really the mango Sakai stuff is kind of changing people's perception about it. I mean, I've got a really creamy coloured Karashi Goi, and that's from Konishi, and that's my favourite bloodline in Karashi. But yeah, to be fair, it's like, why would you have a Yamabuki now? Because Karashis just have those jumbo genetics, and if you're not a fan of metallic, it's they are pushing the boundaries with what like Karashi Goi and colour are. Same with Chagoi though. Like how many different colour Chagoi do you see now as well? You got green, you got brown, grey coloured, almost like Sorogoi. there's just such a fine line between some of them varieties. But that's interesting. What for you, Josh? Is there any particular like farms in Japan that you prefer to buy from, or whereabouts are you? You said that you're buying your fish with Chris Edwards in Japan, but he has access to multiple breeders, doesn't he? It's not
Yeah,
just Dainichi or whatever.
yeah. Obviously, I've not bought thousands of koi yet. As I say, I'm still learning my trade, but I've just for now stuck with the big farms. So I've got stuff coming in from Shinoda, Hayatsu in Shinoda, Hoshikin Kahaku. I'm thinking on the spot now. I've got stuff from Dainichi, obviously. Yugenja. There's a couple of others as well I can't think on the spot, but I've just sort of stuck to the kind of like the big farms that sort of everyone knows of. But that's another reason why I'd like to go out there, because you might walk in a smaller farm and think, you know what, this is amazing. It's just on a smaller scale, which I'm sure will happen. Yeah, so I just stuck with the bigger farms, and again, business plays a part because it's what's on there at the right time for the right price as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's obvious that you're not like trying to buy super expensive, unachievable fish that are for the real top end koi hobbyists either. Like, it's obvious that you've got like a customer in mind when you're buying the fish. I'm not saying you're buying cheap, low quality stuff. You've got some really nice stuff on there with some real potential as well. But you've obviously got some like a fish price in mind what you're trying to buy Tosai for.
Yeah, it's one of them for me at the moment. There's no point me bringing a $8,000 show in because I've not got the clientele to sell that fish. But I have been going more towards the selected stuff where you sort of get 15 fish in a boat that have been handpicked out by, I would imagine, Chris or one of the team who obviously work with Chris, and the really decent quality fish, because I'm not big enough to hold as meaning the actual footprint of where I am. I'm not big enough to hold hundreds and hundreds of Tosai, so I'd rather buy 15 for a bit more money, and then I can sell better quality fish, and I'm not managing as many fish either, because I'm just not big enough in terms of pond space yet. But even going forward, like, you got to cater for all markets. So I have brought some lower end stuff in, but I want to keep it really high quality koi, where to the point where if you buy a koi, it don't really matter which one you buy from me, it's going to have some potential behind it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Will we see you at any of the koi shows this year? You've obviously been to Great British.
Yeah, I've been to them all every year, mate, for the last sort of 4 years. I take the family. But I had a chat with Matt the other day about the National, and he's going to keep me in the loop. Right. So, fingers crossed. I think I'm just going to do the National this year, because I don't want to run before I can walk. And I got cerebral palsy as well, so that's even harder. So, so I don't want to run before I can walk, but and just do one show.
You just mentioned, Josh, you mentioned the family there, so the wife, etc. Have they been a big part of this, or does family and the business become sort of quite separate?
No, it's your family. They've been a big part. I think my two daughters, they're fed up with seeing fish. They're 18 months and 4 years old, and now they're just like, yeah, I've seen it. But funny enough, I don't hear it much. But my missus loves sitting at the pond when we had one. So that's sort of the thing we're going through at the moment is I'm saying I don't want a pond at home yet, and she's saying, well, I do. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, you need to take advantage of that.
I know. That's the other thing. So I think if we can get some sort of flow going at the shop, I might build a pond in the summer next year and sort of document it on YouTube and stuff like that.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how it differs, your hobbyist pond to your one at the barn.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting. It's just nice, I think, to get the backstory behind like a koi dealer, because we mentioned it before we come on. Like it's a bit of like a. We said it's like a grey area with koi hobbyists, and like getting to trust somebody and getting to know a koi dealer is really difficult now. And unless you go, I mean, koi dealers are busy. Even if you go and see Josh, I'm sure he'll make time for you if you go and visit him. But with a lot of koi dealers, they've got stuff to be doing. They've got fish to photograph. They've got ponds to clean. There's a lot to be done, and it's nice to be able to get you on here and like chat with you, because otherwise people might not get the opportunity to know who you are unless they make an appointment.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that,
just
Joe.
trusting somebody.
I'm glad you mentioned that, mate, because I think, to be fair, I like quite a lot of traffic through the website. And I know we're in January, it's freezing cold, and we're not really in the season yet. Well, we're not in the season yet. But I think, from my perspective as a hobbyist as well, if I went on a website and I didn't really know who it was, or it just sort of a dealer that I come across on the internet, I'd be reluctant to buy, as it's just human nature, isn't it? And I have quite a lot of traffic through the website, but there's not too many sales happening at the moment. But again, I think there's that element of trust there. And the people that I've bought off me that are sort of organic customers that I don't know, and they're not in the WhatsApp groups. Like, I had one today, funny enough, and I've been ringing them and just started saying thank you for obviously putting your trust in me and that, and just sorting out what they want to do for delivery and stuff like that. And everyone's been really, really nice and sound, and I've helped quite a lot of people out, sort of like just chatting even when they've not sent money, which I think is a big thing. Talking car, yeah, I love it, mate. Love it, but I think that's the number one battle at the moment is gaining trust and getting the name out there.
Yeah, and I hope that this podcast can do that for you, to be fair. I mean, we did mention a couple of podcasts ago, and we were quite critical about the old WhatsApp group culture, and I mentioned that I'm not gonna, don't worry, Josh, I'm not setting you up here, but I was quite critical of some koi WhatsApp groups that I've been in the past, but I did, however, say that I am in some that are really nice as well. And one that I am in is yours, and I think my phone pings almost every day Josh's bloody WhatsApp group. Like, he's chatting about just random stuff in that group, boxing and all sorts. Like, when the Fury fight were happening, it was just popping off on his WhatsApp group. It's just nice, isn't it? And it's not all about koi. And it's not like you're just doing these, Dave put it as like fire emojis, Well, no, it wasn't Dave. It was Greg, wasn't it, about fire emojis before.
Yeah, I never said a bad word about the WhatsApp groups. I think they're marvellous things.
But no, it's representative of Josh, I think, is what I'm trying to say. I think the WhatsApp group culture is not like seen in Josh's group.
Well, a lot of WhatsApp groups are now locked down, aren't they? Where comments are only allowed when they're trying to sell stuff. And it's nice to have it's a community rather than a selling platform.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to go down that route. Just in the WhatsApp group, you got the announcement section, which you can just be in. I'll just bang koi in there when I get them before they go on the website. And then if you got to be in the chat, you can be in the chat. If you don't, and you just want to see the koi, then that's fine. And obviously, I give every customer a WhatsApp group code for 10% off the actual koi on the website. Because obviously, not sure when I get to a point where I'm just doing auction after auction after auction. Because again, I'm not big enough anyway. But it's nice to give back, because obviously I can bang a fish in there and someone's like, yeah, I'll have it now. It just saves me a load of hassle. So I do offer a 10% discount for people being in there, but the chat is good. It's not, it's probably half and half koi and then just general banter. So it's perfect at the moment, but it's when you scale up you get problems in it.
Yeah, you start getting loads of people in there. I mean, it's just nice, to be honest, for you growing a little community of people. And if you're in your koi dealership, and you can, some dealers do it better than others at getting like a bubble of people together, and the same people are then in the grow and show competitions and all this kind of stuff. But for advice and stuff, it's really good. But I mean, yeah, we'll leave that. It's a can of worms with WhatsApp stuff, to be honest. But I would say if you're interested in knowing more about Josh, like the WhatsApp's a good place to do it actually, and I wouldn't say that about many businesses. So there you go. But no, it's sorry, Dave.
No, sorry.
So, in terms of Satomi Nishikigoi itself, then, Josh, is it just fish sales, or do you do dry goods and things like that?
I've got dry goods on the website, but I just drop shipping at the moment. Like I say, I'm building business. I don't hold stock, so the day people need them. But I'm more about the fish, mate. I want to do the fish, and going forward, it'll be fish.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it, to buy a load of dry goods and keep them on the shelf if you've like you say, you're building a business. It's really difficult. But it's with the dry goods things. Like, do you have any recommended things? Like, what do you feed on the farm? That's a good place to start.
So I've been feeding JPD, and I've also been trying out, how do you say it? Kiyomizu, is that right?
Kiyomizu.
Yeah.
Just because that's what I've had access to at the moment. Obviously, I'm just feeding it a generic wheat germ to fish to the one tank that's cool. But yeah, the fishing growing on JPD and Kiyomizu. I've got one side on Kiyomizu, one side on JPD, and I'm sort of having a look at what the koi did.
I really like the idea of that Kiyomizu stuff, actually. I mean, I did an interview with one of the guys behind it. And
Into Yoss been involved in it?
So Yoss did their like juvenile food, the really like the stuff you feed to really small tosai is the Polish recipe, from what I understand, or it's got like ingredients in there. But then they've got junior, is it adult and jumbo? I think as well in the Kiyomizu, because it's life stage based, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah,
so are you using it in that regard as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So when you walk down my growing pond in the middle, the fish on the right are all sort of coming up to 40 cm. So I've been trying them on a bigger pellet, sort of like a 5-6 mil pellet, and then the fish on the left. I've only just gone to that. Sorry, on the right, the fish on the left are on the 3 mil Kiyomizu, because they're a bit smaller. They're sort of like probably I'd say 20 cm around that area. But something I do want to play around with is trying the bigger fish on small pellet, just more of it.
Well, it was interesting. It's interesting because when I did the interview, the guy said, "Well, what do you feed your dog? What do you feed your puppy, and then what do you feed your adult dog? You don't feed them the same food." And he says like small fish have different nutritional requirements for different ages of development. Like if they're building a bone structure, they need more X, Y, and Z. And if they're at an adult age and they're not growing, they just need like top ups on colour and things like that, and less about heavy growth and heavy protein. I found it really interesting. Obviously, the big drawback that you get is if you've got a pond full of mixed fish, you've got some adults and some small.
Which is a lot of hobbyist pond, isn't it? A lot of hobbyist pond are mixture sizes.
I think it depends how serious you are, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Because if you say it's about going tosai, you're never going to do it to its absolute optimal if you got 60 cm tonsai in there with it. So I think that's where it is good. The Kiyomizu allows you to sort of do it more professionally, if you like, if you've got the means to do that.
It's interesting because I think the jumbo Kiyomizu food, the pellets are quite big from what I understand, like 8 mil, I think, big pellets.
Wow!
And I think the
big
idea is that
chokers.
yeah. And I think the idea is you chuck them in first, and the small fish can't get them. So that's how you feed your big fish first, then you put your small pellet in after. But in Japan, actually, when I were like sneaking around trying to figure out what they're using in, their big jumbo top ponds, all the pellets are massive in there. And I mean, it makes sense to me, really. Like, big fish hate swimming, as stupid as it sounds. I think they're quite lazy. So if they're going to come up for a pellet, at least make it somewhat worthwhile.
It's funny. So when I first moved across to Saki, which was what's the Saki smaller pellet, 3 to 4 mil, isn't it?
It's about 3 mil.
To transfer them over at the time, I was on the NT Labs Medikoi, but I was on the 6 to 8 mil pellet. So for the last bit, I mixed it up just to sort of transition them across. If I ever went to my skimmer, so if I turned all my air and everything off of an evening to go and sort of view them, when I threw food in, only NT Labs food would get left and would go in the skimmer. The Saki would all get taken, and I said to people, you're crazy. The koi were definitely fussy towards the smaller pellet Saki, and I don't know whether it's because it tasted better or whether it was easier to get, but yeah, it was always the NT Labs that ended up in the skimmer.
Have you found that, Josh, about fish being picky with food or not?
I've not got a skimmer, so no. Obviously, mine, the ones that are growing,
It gets eaten.
they're 25 degrees and they're just, they'll eat anything. I even put, you're going to laugh something else, most likely, but it's not a good business choice, but I've even been putting tofu and sweet potato in, just as sort of like, in that, and they absolutely loved it, mate. So,
no, it's interesting because fish are picky eaters. They can be, especially when you start giving them like top food, and then you try and give them other stuff. They definitely know what's good.
The worst one is the one that they can't get enough of is sturgeon food. If you got this is what I always say to it. And anyone says, actually, this is probably for a different podcast, but I've got a sturgeon in my pond. Would I have another sturgeon in my pond? 100% no, because the sturgeon food is a nightmare. I can chuck the Saki in the top and I can stick the cheap old rubbish sturgeon food in, and all the koi are on the bottom. They're loving life, and it drives me mad.
Is that just because it's sturgeon food, though, or is it because they prefer to eat off at bottom?
It's because it's even when I've used a sink in, I don't know what is in that sturgeon food, because it's just bulking, really, isn't it? Because sturgeon require a lot of protein, and when you look at the nutrients in a sturgeon food compared to something like Saki, it's rubbish. Yet I suppose it's like McDonald's to us, isn't it? You could have really healthy food, or you can have McDonald's. We'll have the McDonald's off the bottom, thanks.
Yeah. It's really that is interesting. I keep saying that's interesting, but this is a really interesting chat. But like, for you guys, like in a hobbyist environment, for the price of some of the expensive foods, you could feed 10 sacks of cheaper food. Where do we all stand on that? I mean, Josh has changed it and he's gone to like a business now. And where do you stand on that, Josh? Will you see quality over quantity, or?
If I was feeding my own pond, I feed nothing but Saki. I don't think you can. I don't think you can compare to it. I tried them all. Saki for me.
Well, it's like that age-old saying, isn't it? You are what you eat. Green Giant.
Other sweet corn available.
I myself, I've noticed, a massive. The difference is just night and day. In the overall appearance of the koi. You look at the skin. When you're feeding a food like Saki Karin, it's just night and day.
Yeah. I've had less problems since feeding Saki, I think. I think they're a healthier fish. But the other side of it is the water.
Yeah.
When you feed cheap foods, I heavy feed with the Saki and I get a bit of a tinge, granted, but there were some foods, within a week, the water was cloudy as anything. And you're just thinking, what is in that food to cause that?
You see,
it was absolute junk.
I was feeding coppins, top koi, to grow the fish on at the barn, and I'm feeding what the auto feeder is going at 10 times a day, and I switch because I can't see the fish. I can purge it every day. I purge the settlement and the moving bed. I've got 7,000 litres of heated water on site ready to go, so the water changing every day. I just could not keep that pond clear. Not even somewhat clear. You couldn't see the fish. They were like a mud pond. You'll see it if you watch Telford Koi Pond video. He come and visited me, Phil, with Craig, and you can see it on there. It's, and it doesn't matter. I was really paranoid over it, but it doesn't matter how much you explain it when you. I'm gonna say every day, obviously, your water looking essentially dirty. Like, it's not. It's like, obviously, no ammonia, no nitrite. And the nitrite is really, really low as well, believe it or not. When you see that, it just doesn't look good, does it? So even though they're growing ponds, and when I bring them fish out on video and show people, they look unreal. But the vast majority of koi hobbyists struggle to understand that, I would say. So that's why I sort of stayed away from the coppins. But it's not a terrible food, I don't think, the top koi anyway. But keeping the water clear is just not going to happen.
the thing what did me with the coppins is when they switched from a fish meal based food to a poultry based food. That's when I started noticing a lot of changes in how the fish reacted to it.
Yeah.
I've
just bought a... they do, and it's a big part of Japanese culture to like feed cold fish back to the fish as well, and make paste with the dead fish, and like it's a big part of Japanese culture. I do think that there is a level of confusion from the Japanese about how particular we are about koi food. I mean, genuinely, if I asked Chris Edwards a long time ago, probably about a year ago, koi food's a massive subject, but he said that like in Japan, as to like whereabouts on their priority it is for like premium koi food, how in terms of how to get growth, food is quite far down the list in priorities. Whereas I feel like in this country, it's almost like at the top, and so. I would say, is sake hikari a brilliant food? Absolutely, I use it myself. I've bought multiple sacks of it, and it's a fantastic brand. At the moment, I've got a koi food. I bought 25 kilos for £35, and it's nearly just over £1 a kilo, and I'm feeding that, and my fish are going absolutely balmy for it. I've like never seen them react like that for food, but the water clarity is terrible, absolutely terrible. But to me, I'm not particularly fussed about that because, and I'm going to say something else a little bit controversial here, but it's very rare that I see good condition fish in clear water. I can't remember many examples of seeing amazing condition fish in clear water. I don't know how you guys feel about that statement, but it's just in crystal clear water. I don't think it's optimal, and that could be you could switch that for heavy organics. I think that would be good, or you could switch that for green water, and I feel like that would be good.
Do you know what? I know it's not Japanese koi; it's an English-bred koi. But having been to Adam Byers and to Cuttlebrook, their water isn't crystal clear. That isn't their main priority.
And the fishermen. Adams. I've not been to Cuttlebrook, but Adams fish. I mean,
both. When we spoke to Adam and to Mark, both been fantastic. With really good tours. And if I remember rightly, one of them, if not both, mentioned about waste actually serving a purpose in a pond. We're all going to drums and we're taking that waste straight out, but that waste is actually part of the cycle, isn't it? And removing it that quickly, they think there's actually benefit to leaving some of that waste there to settle before removing it.
But why do you think that sake has all these minerals in it? And all them expensive ingredients. I mean, we're all feeding our fish more and more as we all get more and more knowledgeable in the hobby, and there's a lot of good information out there that and people do say that we're not feeding our fish enough, and it's something that I've learned in my time during koi and working in koi is genuinely how to raise fish, to be fair. And one of my big takeaways is that having a pond full of heavy organics, whether that's from a good koi food, a clean koi food, even if there is waste and your water's got a tinge to it, it's genuinely quite good stuff. Like there's a lot of good minerals in that.
It don't bother me. It don't bother me having coloured water at all.
How many times have I whinged in our WhatsApp group, Si, about my tinge in my water? It, honestly, up until recently, it's really driving me mad because I've always looked at it and not really associated it with the feeding. I've always looked at it and thought, I've not got clear water, so amalgam UV went on and it just carried on. I still got this tinge, and everyone I spoke to said, well, yeah, a natural pond, a good pond should have a tinge. It shouldn't be clear water.
Especially if you're feeding for high growth as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeding a lot of food to push your fish to grow, then you can't avoid it.
No, I've got balance at the moment, Saki balance, so the tinge is better than it was, but once that gets to a lower point, I'm going to stick growth back in there. Can't help myself.
It's definitely an important conversation. I think it'd be interesting to see how we get on with Kiyomizu versus JPD, because it's two other good brands as well that are on the market. So,
Joe, I remember from one of your videos, when was it you went up and you was looking at that was Yamabuki Ogons with your French dealer there.
Yeah.
There was JPD.
Oh,
In the
yeah.
background one there, I noticed a couple of the dealerships had JPD.
Yeah, I'm hopefully going to get some content on JPD, to be fair, because I think in Japan it's used a lot more than what we are made aware of. I think the going thing with JPD is, it's just putting photographs and dealers pose with it and get the banners, and that's kind of it. But everybody I asked, definitely in the south, everybody I asked, I said, what do you use? And they say, oh, the JPD colour food is amazing. Now, I'm not sure if we can get that version of JPD in England. And I don't know whether it's the JPD we get here is made by somebody else. But
it has been said that the JPD what we get over here is supposedly JPD, but obviously it's produced in the Coppens factory.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's changing now. And I think the Shogun and other things are coming from Japan, from what I understand. But I'm hoping. I mean, certainly they might watch this now and be like, "I'm going to set him right. I'm going to jump on a podcast and say, right, look, I'm hoping that there's going to be some changes with JPD, from what I hear, and it probably means that there'll be prices going up and this, that, and the other. Because if you're getting stuff from Japan, then that's usually what happens. Because
that's every food, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've already been told Saki in the next month, isn't it? Saki's going to go through the roof again.
I think there's only a bit of a gap in the market for a middle of the range food, because FD food is meant to be good, but I'll never use that because by the time I price it up as a hobbyist, I may as well bought sake. So I never use FD, but just something like middle of the road, like sort of not your Coppens and your Medicoi and sort of stuff like that, but not quite sake and FD would be JPD.
I think interesting point, isn't it, Joe? It's worth stating that anyone listening to this podcast is quite new to the hobby that's buying koi food. The first thing you should do is break it down to price per kilo.
Yeah.
Always break your food down to price per kilo. I mean, if you was to take something like what's a really tetra pond sticks. My dad's got a goldfish pond and he feeds it and it's perfectly fine for that. But if I look at what he pays for a kilo bag of tetra, it's double the price of sake.
Yeah.
It's really expensive.
It's them buckets and things like that. It's astonishing. But there's that, and I think krill meal and blood meal and other things can also have a big part to play. And I'm hoping that we can get some interviews lined up on koi food for this podcast. I'm approaching a few brands because I do think that some of these koi foods. I mean, us four here, 2 of us are in this professionally, 2 of us are in it as senior hobbyists who have got really big koi
senior.
Coins and I mean, you don't act like seniors, but you are high-end koi hobbyists. You spend hundreds of pounds eating your pond each month. So
don't say things like that. She might be listening.
I think there'd be a lot to be said if a koi food brand comes forward and gives some information. I think it could reap massive rewards for some brands.
Like Josh said, that middle of the road, because I was so close to buying JPD Shori the other day, but the margin between JPD and sake wasn't big enough to warrant going for the JPD over the sake. It needs. I met a guy, so about 3 years ago, down at the All England Koi Show. He was a guy, I never caught his name. He was selling sacks of food that he was bringing in from Japan. And I'm pretty sure he'd been part of the Coppens group, possibly, maybe one half of the Coppens group, and he'd started his own koi food. But it obviously didn't take off because I've not seen him for a couple of years now. He disappeared. But he was doing, there was 15 kilo sack and it was 65 quid, I think. But they were really good ingredients, and it was funny. It was Keith from Koi Water Balm that put me onto him, Keith and Amir. But it never took off, which I was gutted about, because at that price it was really good.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me we see something pop up, but I mean, there we go. I mean, we've spoken for another hour. It seems to like we come on here and it's like, what are we going to talk about? And then the conversation goes half an hour about koi foods and feeding and this, that, and the other. But no, I think it's been great to get to know Josh a bit. And I'm sure, like, if you're interested in popping down, go and see Josh at Satomi. It'll mean a lot to him. He's a new business, so
yeah. Don't have him. What we've heard today. Don't beat him up on price and don't ask for too big a discounts, because we've got 7,000 odd litres heated, ready to go.
Yeah.
We've got fish eating 3-course meals with sweet potato and sake. I mean, crikey, you're buying koi that have been pampered.
Yeah.
Hopefully it pays off,
no,
mate. Like I say, I think there's a little bit of a market for it, so we'll see how we go.
I think you will fill a market or a niche in the market, because it's so hard. Say you go, and it could be, let's take a Sakai, let's take a Kahaku, you go there, it's Tozai going into Nisai, but it's a bit thin where it's been underfed. But has it been underfed, or has it got crap genetics?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. Whereas if you went somewhere and you went, that's got good shape, it makes that choice a bit easier. You haven't got to stand there and go, is it a scrawny fish? Is it going to grow? It makes the life easier.
I had a chat with Joe on the phone a while back now on it, and they said, like, as a hobbyist, the amount of times I got into a dealership and bought a Tozai, put it in the pond at home that's 23, 24 degrees on sake grow, and it hardly even budged. It can't all be genetics. Like, it's got to, in my opinion, that is stunted growth, and that is probably because it's sat in the dealership all year, freezing cold for most of the year, and hardly any food, and they just don't grow after it sometimes. And I've had that.
Yeah.
I can't count on one hand how many times I've had that.
A lot of dealers' main focus isn't to grow the fish, is it?
No.
So
it's quantity.
But a lot that what Josh speaks about, and you do get chibi nisai or chisi nisai or small bonsai koi or whatever fish that have been Tozai but haven't grown. That is completely different to malnourished koi.
Yeah.
There's a massive difference. If you're getting chibi nisai, that's a healthy fish with a good body shape that's been purposely raised from Tozai to Nisai, but purposely kept small.
You've used a word there that some listeners might not understand. Would you like to explain chibi nisai, Joe?
Yeah, so chibi nisai is 2-year-old fish that's still quite small. So you genuinely find that people will keep them small on purpose to refine the colours on them so they can show them in a koi show, or they've been spawned late and they've just had basically a winter cold water period. They hadn't really had a full growing season for whatever reason. And that chibi nisai is very, very different to what I think Josh is describing, where you get these fish from dealers. The 100 fish have been packed in and they get one handful a day of koi food. I've got fish in my pond that I have had similar things that Josh describes. And one of the things is I feed my fish a lot, and they'll fight for pellets. So if one fish has a mouthful of pellets, another fish will come over and try and nab the pellets out of the other fish's mouth. And and it's going to sound stupid, but I think that is because at some stage in its life, it's been malnourished.
Yeah, it's having to fend for it.
It's having to fend for itself. And I've had other fish that have come directly from Japan, and they don't have a clue what's going on when a fish is doing that. And I think that then can cause massive stress on a fish that's never experienced that before. I've got big fish, like 70 centimetre Crashigoi, it's humongous, and it's got this like 35 centimetre weed that's like coming up and fighting it.
Yeah,
and
I get it with mine.
Yeah. And I think it's a stress event for the larger fish. And so what we're saying, Josh, is in your shop, hopefully, because you're feeding, this won't be a problem for people.
Yeah,
But these are the things, for hobbyists, for your customers, they don't want to have to go through this that we've gone through, do they? They're like, you want to buy a fish and put it in your pond. That's essentially the hobby, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's like,
why should it be so difficult?
I want to eventually get to a point where I can sort of get the word on that if you get a fish from me, you know it's been fed, it's not been kept cold, there's food been going in, the water's right, and hopefully, you can never guarantee it, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to take a fish home that's going to continue to grow for you, obviously providing you're keeping it in the right conditions, and it's going to go on and be healthy and become a decent sized fish.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about, isn't it? You just nailed it spot on. It's about keeping them in the right conditions to get the best out of them.
Yeah, but it's been really fun. It's been good to have you on, mate. So thank you for giving us your time tonight.
No, thank you, mate. Appreciate it. I really did.
If you want to go ahead and subscribe to Josh on YouTube, his link will be in the description and his website details. And if you want to see more from Simon on his ever-existing Grow on Pond project that's going to happen next year.
Oh, that was a bit bitchy, wasn't it, Si?
And his really nice pond that he's done some good stuff with this year. You've just enclosed it, haven't you, and done all that for the first time. So there's some good stuff. And then Dave's roof's been pregnant this year as well.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. If you want to see disasters, stupidity, not learning lessons,
no,
once bitten, twice shy.
He's been dressed in a swimsuit. What some might want to see.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. They both got some really good content, so go check them guys out on YouTube if you aren't already.
But more importantly, I'll point in that way because that's where he is on my screen. Go support Josh because he is new to the market and he's an absolute top guy. Even with our giveaways that we done, Josh was one of the first, if not the first, to send me a message and say, "Look, I really want to, we really want to help." So fair play.
Thank you, lads. Cheers. I've not uploaded a YouTube video for a couple of months because I just had to sort of cut myself some slack when I was building because I just couldn't get everything done. Sometimes you just gotta prioritise, haven't you? But as of next week now, I'm going to do a big update, and next week I'll be uploading a video. So.
Yeah, and hopefully that we can do something in the magazine, and I'll come over and do like a feature once you've got the barn and stuff sorted. Everything. We're going to come over and do something. So. It'll be good. And if you haven't already, you can get these podcasts weekly, released every Sunday, or in your podcast apps on a Monday morning for your commute to work. You can get it on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music as well. So if you want to hit that's in the description below as well. And you'll see us next week on the Koi Perspective podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
See you later.
Hey guys.
See you later. Bye bye.
Don't know why I'm waving. It's a podcast.